Hi, Scarlett. Yeah. Um, it's kind of a new to me um, craft, but I'm also a cross stitcher. I don't know if you are as well. And there seems to be a lot of overlap between cross stitchers and diamond art people. Um, so this is actually a cross stitch pattern that I'm converting into a diamond painting. So spending my time today filling in all the background that would normally be the fabric because that's going to take a lot more time than the actual design, diamond painting the design itself. So I thought I'd hop on here for a couple hours and do that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So what are you up to? Anything exciting, or just winding down the day and trying to jump on here and find something relaxing to have on in the background? Yeah, I haven't either, and you know, it's obvious that I could really use that. I think though, I may try, because some of these straight lines, as you can also tell maybe, I'm having to go outside past where the grid is on the fabric. So I started thinking the other day to keep these lines lined up. Since I don't have the grid, I might try the longer, you know, the 3 or 6 or whatever, just to see if I get straighter lines. So, but I have yet to do it, because right now I think my mind enjoys the single, just placing the single dots. It just seems real methodical and real, I don't know, it's like I can refocus my mind on something. Oh, you mean a roller to lay down the dots? I've got one to like once you're done, to basically kind of like flatten them and make sure they stay on the sticker, but or the adhesive. But that's kind of interesting if there is a roller to do like long, you know, put just multiple dots on there. So yes, that's what I've done so far, and I kind of took a break from it over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, which I tried to get in like an hour every day, either, you know, at the end of the day or on the weekends or whatever. And this month kind of got away from me, so I thought, well, maybe I'd spend a little bit of time this evening trying to, like I said, just fill in the background, since I don't really need to look at a pattern to do that, and can't really get it wrong. It is, and this is only probably a third of the way up. Like, that's kind of why I've got all the fabric. There's more fabric here than I need, but I'd rather just keep all of the roll together until I'm done, so that way I can cut off enough margin at the top that I can put I think I'm going to do one of those just bar hangers, but I need enough fabric to do that, and I don't want to cut it and then find out I'm like 90% there and I cut it too short. So yeah, I think I'm doing this off the top of my head, so you'll have to forgive me because I know I've got it saved somewhere, but I think the calculator tool that I used said this was going to be 19 inches by 30. No, that's not right. 19 by 24 maybe. However, in my 19, that accounted for either an inch margin on either side or whatever, and this sheet like is not quite, but pretty close to 19 inches, so I think my calculator was wrong. So another reason why I don't want to trim the top until I'm done, in case I need extra room. So yeah, it's definitely one of those that I really intended to, or bought the fabric thinking the fabric would be the right dimensions, and I was cutting it a little bit short, but I think it's going to be okay. Just having to kind of make it up on the left and right margins a little bit, just to try to keep it all together. It's kind of funny because I'll work on it and I'll go, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you know, that looks crooked or whatever, and then I come back to it after walking away from it for a while, and then I realize I really don't mind the crookedness in the bigger scheme of things isn't as obvious, or it's not as big of a deal. So I kind of don't mind so much. I've got to figure out though, if you do diamond paint, is there a not a trick, but is there like definitely wax that is better quality, or are they all kind of the same? Like you just find your stylist just after a while just kind of chews it up and doesn't matter what you do, because like I can get going for a little while, but then all of a sudden it just keeps clumping up on me, and then constantly having to renegotiate like this, you know, the piece, or you know, it gets clumped up inside the stylus, and then all of a sudden it sticks to the, I don't know if that's a me thing. Okay, well that's good to know. I should say the wax that came with this, it's kind of funny because I was going to say, so like I bought these, and I actually bought another set too, because these are, as you can see, these aren't colored. Maybe I should try these other ones I bought. But yeah, it seemed like it was just every time I would fool around, the more I worked with it, the more I yeah, did this number, it seemed like it would be start to wear itself down. And I think these, the one I'm using is, yeah, I think these are like fragrance scented ones, which I didn't know what the difference was there, other than I guess maybe you wanted it to smell good. I don't know. But they were like, whatever craft store I was at, like I think they were getting rid of their diamond painting supplies because nobody was really buying them, so I kind of got a bunch of stuff kind of on clearance or whatever. So better stylus, yeah. I was gonna say, well, and that goes back to what I said before, since this was truly like my first attempt and what I was trying to do. Instead of buying a kit that's made, you know, pre-printed and whatever, I was truly taking a cross-stitch pattern and turning it into diamond painting. And so this was like, this is one of the corners at the top of the pattern, and I literally just did this just to see, okay, what would it look like? And if I could print out, that was the other thing, if I could adjust the print out paper pattern, blow it up to the correct dimensions. And this one I kind of got off, but this one, because it was pre-printed fabric, so all I'm doing is just looking at a pattern, a digital pattern, and then transferring it. It turned out a lot easier, but yes, in this case, so all I did was bought the, you know, the starter kit. It was the stylus, the little trays, the tweezers, the wax, and then the colors were a set. The green, blue, this is kind of like a coral red color, yellow, and I think the white came like in a 5-pack, and they just happened to correlate really well with the original colors of the pattern. So then it was just the matte black for the torso, and then I decided the background is all black like you'd want to stitch it on black fabric. Well, I started kind of experimenting. So like these are the AB black. I kept the matte black for the torso, and then I want to do there's like 4 or 5 flowers up here that I want at least outline in matte black, but then this other AB black is blue black is like the background. So I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit, and I hope it all looks okay. this is the one section where I think I'm just going to do this little bit of the background and see how, walk away from it and come back to it and see how that looks before I go and keep going. If one line of outlining in black will be enough, I think, for just getting the flower to show up without the blue, the two blues clashing. So thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really kind of thrilled with it. I mean, part of it considering this is practically pretty much the first diamond painting, like big diamond painting I've ever done in the history of ever, but it is one of those kind of like cross stitch, kind of like knitting, some of the other crafty things. You know, all of a sudden you have an idea and you buy the things for your idea, and then your brain goes, oh, look over here, look what else you can do. So it ended up, I did quite a few other things, which gave me a chance to take a break from this, because this is obviously really big and this is going to take a while. But the ultimate goal, or, you know, ultimate idea was, well, at least this gives me another diversion. And if I can do little things and then come back to the bigger thing, as long as I don't go down too many different avenues and get myself so spread thin that I can't finish any one thing, then I think I'm okay. But yes, I've got a couple other smaller diamond paintings, like one, and they're all, and just for the record, every single diamond painting I've done has been the conversion of a cross stitch pattern, just because it seems kind of fun to do. But I've got my cup over here. This was a cross stitch pattern that I turned into a diamond painting and then made it into the cup. I've got a second cup that I'm working on for a friend that's done, but I've got to I've got some things I've got to work out, because this isn't the style of cup I'm using. So like some of the borders and stuff, it's not going to be clean edges like it is with this one. So I've got to figure out how to make it look good for the, it's like a cold cup tumbler, just a clear plastic, clear acrylic tumbler. I've got to figure out how to make the edges and the back and everything all look good, because everything basically is going to be exposed. All the, you know, places where the edges aren't, you know, kind of like this, you know, there's going to be some overlap, but not much. So I've got to finalize those little details. And then I've got another cross stitch pattern that was just a simple like sampler that has a quote on it that I just need to start filling it in. I got all the stitches, you know, stitches done. It's a really sweet pattern, but I've got to figure out the background, because the color I chose is too close to one of the colors of the letters, so some of the words are getting kind of lost. And it may be another one where I just need to get it out, do a little bit more, walk away from it, and then come back to it and say, oh no, I can read that, or no, I can't. So that one's over there too. But that's it. Those are the only ones. I've got kind of a short list of other ones I'd like to do, but I'm not gonna, like, I have a ton of cross stitch patterns that are all various stages of being stitched, and I don't want to get there with diamond painting. I kind of, especially with this particular diamond painting, I don't want to go down the avenue of too many projects, and then I don't have enough time. The other thing I noticed, and I think this is a me thing, it's obvious holding this stylus is similar to holding how you hold a writing utensil, a pen or a pencil or something like that. I did get this little thing because the little edge, I mean, it's a real cheap starter kit, so this little edge kept digging into my finger here, so that helped, that solved that problem. But then now I'm finding my hand resting on the drills is kind of uncomfortable to my knuckles, so I'm trying to hold my hand differently. and stop like pressing or pushing with my pinky, and I'm still having to learn to get used to that. The smaller ones that I've done, I've been able to keep the plastic over the top, so it kind of smoothed that out. So I was just resting my hand on the clear sheet, protector sheet, but this one's been a little more difficult. So that's a good idea. I will have to look. I know, because I know exactly what you're talking about. That's actually an excellent idea. I'll just have to see if I can find something that, because that was the other thing too, when I first started this, I realized, because I am right-handed for this, I definitely needed to make sure that the adhesive, I kept sticking my hand in the adhesive, and that was not good. So I always needed to make sure I worked this direction, so there was always something for my hand to rest on other than the sticky. But yeah, so that's not a bad idea. I will definitely have to look. And, you know, this is like one of those things where you kind of ask yourself, okay, do I go watch, you know, people on YouTube or on Twitch, and see how they do it? And then you just kind of think, no, I mean, it's not, I'm sure there are no rules really on how to do it properly, but I'm pretty sure everybody's just kind of got their own method, like, you know, the way that it works for them, as far as their setup, and then also the way it works for them as far as their how they want to do things. So I can totally understand if that is what it takes. Is just finding, yeah, your protective gear, I guess you want to call it, for when you're having long sessions of diamond painting. Or if you need to do something different to make it work. So, Scarlett, do you have a channel? Like, do you stream, or do you just usually come on Twitch just to hang out with other... I haven't been on here in, like, forever. It's probably, if I had to guess, it's probably been maybe a year or more. Like, I have a lot of friends who are streamers, so they come on here, and they... all kind of have their schedules that basically fill up my week, so I hardly have a... When I do come on here, I am usually looking for a break. So this was kind of a last minute thought on my part to do this. Well, I was gonna say I am too. I definitely prefer the camera, you know, facing my work as opposed to facing me. So I totally understand that, and especially on days like today. I'm in Texas, and like, we have really bad humidity, high humidity. I mean, it's spring, but high humidity, but also potential for thunderstorms and stuff like that. And like, my hair is an absolute mess, and I don't want to I don't want to dress up to get in front of a camera. So if I can sit here in my, you know, my lounge pants and my t-shirt and just be comfortable, and but you all can join me while I'm working on something, I don't mind that one bit. But yes, I completely understand. I think for the longest time too, I only knew, when I first joined Twitch, I only knew maybe 1 or 2 people that were on here, and I only, you know, came over because they were trying it as a new, you know, venture for them, and then realized it wasn't much different, or I guess they realized it wasn't much different than YouTube, but then it was kind of discovered by one of the streamers that used to do a lot of YouTube lives. She kind of mentioned that the Twitch, like the delay in the chat versus the feed or whatever was far, there's less of a delay in Twitch, stuff like that. So more and more of us kind of jumped over here especially for live streams, and then only use YouTube to post up actual recorded, or like post up Twitch streams after the fact if somebody wanted to rewatch them, just for the sake of having content out there. But other than that, I have a friend whose birthday is tomorrow, so they are going on Twitch for their birthday, which is kind of exciting. And I don't think Jesse's been on Twitch in a while, so that'll be fun. And then most of the people I watch are either knitters or diamond painters or cross stitch stitchers or something like that, crafty people. So we all just get on here and watch each other and hang out and kind of keep to our own little community over here. So I am kind of excited that there is somebody here. It's almost 4:30 my time, 4:30 p.m. my time, and Fridays are early. We get off a little bit early from work just during the summer, so this is officially the first summer Friday that we get off early, so it's kind of why I decided to do this today. Didn't really have anything else going on, and I thought, well, if I use the extra couple of hours that I would normally be at my desk working, and I do this instead, then it will get me some on-air time with Twitch, and maybe I can get back in their good graces. It's funny you mentioned knitting being difficult. So as a person who has done multiple yarn arts, I actually started as a crocheter, which is, if you're not familiar, crochet is the one with the hook, the single hook, whereas knitting, you have two needles that you knit with. And I was a crocheter since like a little kid. My mom did, my grandmothers did, and I'm trying to think, I was definitely an adult, but I wanted to try knitting, and I think what I did was, and this is back when subscription boxes were just kind of becoming a thing, but I think that's what I did was I signed up for some little very, very, very rudimentary beginner knitting subscription box service, because I knew at least if I got yarn and I got the needles and I couldn't figure it out, then I could at least use the yarn for crochet. No big deal. But there were a couple of things like hurdles that I kind of had to, it took me a little while to figure out, and come to find out very recently, I realized, one, I was wrapping the yarn the wrong way, so I was getting a different kind of knit, a tighter knit. Two, I was knitting the wrong, and it's hard to explain, but basically just take my word for it, like the wrong direction. Every loop that I was picking up, the wrong direction. But all these little things, but I realized in the big scheme of things that what the projects I was finishing every time I finished a pair of socks or a hat or a scarf, it really didn't matter. Because what I ended up with, my finished object, my, whatever it was, as far as I was concerned, it was right because it fit, it was the right size, it wasn't, and in the case of like scarves and shawls, there really is no right or wrong size. I mean, they give you dimensions, but, if yours ends up a little shorter or a little longer or a little wider, that's not a big deal as long as the finished, scarf or shawl looks like, the pattern you were trying to knit, or the stripes you were trying to knit. So after I realized that, then once I figured out along the way that I was twisting my stitches, I was knitting them the wrong direction, I was wrapping the yarn wrong, I'm just now at the point, probably over a decade later, where I'm just realizing how to knit correctly, or knit in the way that the stitches actually fall the way they're supposed to. So I've actually spent some time here lately, like I started abandoning projects, especially socks, because socks are one of those things where I realize if there's not a whole lot of change, if all you're doing is just knitting round and round and round and round and round, my brain, unlike this, where I get to change things up if I want to move over here for a little while, just to kind of, help my brain out. But with socks, unless there's like some intricate pattern that kind of changes things up every once in a while, I get bored with them really quick. So I have so many single socks knit. But I do have a pair here recently that I picked back up because I had way over knit the length of the foot, and it was going to fit my brother-in-law's feet. So I thought, well, let me finish the second one so I can get these done, so I can ask my sister to see, send them to her to see if they fit him. Well, come to find out, I had waited so long to start the second sock that I knit the second sock like the correct length that would like fit my foot. So now I've got one sock that's about 2 inches shorter than the other, and I can't figure out, okay, do I finish the first one or the second one, and then go back and pull apart the first one to make it match, and then just make them a smaller, pair of socks for myself, and then go back and knit him a different pair. I mean, it's been so long since she and I even had the conversation. I'm almost positive if I even mentioned it to her, she would act like she didn't even know what I was talking about. So I don't think anybody's missing any socks, but all that to say that knitting is difficult, but at the same time, knitting is what you make of it. And for me, I've definitely also learned that knitting is other than the one or two shawls or hats or gloves or something that I was really looking forward to having like in my wardrobe, or I needed to give as a gift, most of the knitting projects, like I said, I think I have, in all the socks that I have started, and I have probably started, I don't know, at least half a dozen pair, I may actually have one that's finished. But I bet you I have at least 3 or 4, either half a pair, a single sock, or the start of the first sock, sitting over there. So I think knitting is one of those things where if you have the patience with yourself, that I think once you learn even a basic, like especially like scarves, you're just knitting a very, very, very long back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If you find the motion itself to be relaxing or soothing or whatever, you could knit a blanket or a scarf, and you could just keep knitting it and never stop, or just stop when you think it's long enough. Like there's no, hard and fast rule. And so for me, that's really what it boiled down to, is just having an alternative to crochet. And that was part of it too. I think when I learned, or when I decided to pick up knitting, crochet was kind of not on trend anymore. Like crochet blankets, I think will always be a thing. But like crochet, tops or scarves or hats or whatever aren't as popular, or were becoming less popular than knitting was. And so I kind of wanted to, kind of branch over into that. And now, like, you see, like, people everywhere, granny squares are in, which is crochet, and granny square bags, and granny square pants, and granny square, vests and cardigans. And so crochet is definitely back in for a little while anyway. So, and it's funny too, because people who learn knitting first, it is kind of, having learned crochet first, watching knitters try to learn crochet is really quite fascinating, because they are also having to learn a whole different method, and using a different tool, and understanding, how it works, the construction and all that kind of stuff. So it always fascinates me to watch someone who inversely is learning, crochet when they were a knitter first, whereas I learned knitting after being a crocheter first. So, and I think part of that too is people in particular, especially, that if they have it around as a kid, like I mentioned, my grandmother's crocheted, my mom crocheted. I think when you have it around, and you have a genuine interest when you're younger, I think if the family members in your life, are enjoy it, and they want to pass it down, or they want it, even if it's just a way to spend time with you when you're younger, just to teach you how to do something. If you have that additional system in place where you have the ability, you have someone who already has the materials, already has the knowledge base, and then all they're doing is allowing you the opportunity to kind of be a library for you, so you can learn and not go out on your own and try to figure it out for yourself, and certainly not invest, especially when you're little or young, invest a lot of time and money in a hobby if you're not entirely sure, that you have the attention for it, that you have that's something that you really want to do, because definitely I think it's also sometimes it can just be a thing because it, you want to learn because it seems like trendy, like everybody else is doing it, but then you find out you just don't have the the mental capacity to do it. You don't have my sister's a good example. She's asked me so many times, cross stitch for one, but then also knitting, to either teach her or to show her, or how do I get started. So I've sent her multiple times, little mini kit, here, take this yarn, I'm not going to use this yarn, take these needles or this hook or whatever, I'm not going to use them, I've got plenty, and here's where I'd go to start, here are some tutorials to watch. If you still need help, we can meet up one day and I can show you, or I can start a project. Like, I was over at her house here very, very recently, and she had this cross stitch pattern she really wanted to start, and she was just like, I just can't. She's like, I just don't know where to begin, I don't know what to do. So I'd given her the project, given her the fabric and the needle and everything. I said, well, here, let me just do the first center, let me start in the center and just do the first 10-20 stitches for you, so where you need to begin, and then you just take it from there. And I think that, just gave her the motivation to, okay, I can do this now. It's been started for me. Wire wrapped, yeah, I was going to say, gosh, I went through a jewelry phase too, so I can completely understand that. But even like, I've seen people wire wrap like, not just for, accessories, but like, or, personal accessories to wear, but like, I've seen them wire wrap like plant pots. I've seen them wire wrap, writing utensils, pens, pencils, those kinds of things. I've seen all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I totally get that. And the wire wrap thing in particular, I went down a rabbit hole with that because you can do just the jewelry grade, materials, but there's like this whole like subset of, because if you get into higher, like if you start with like nickel plated or those kinds of things with your jewelry making, then you can come out on the lower end of it. But if you start getting into sterling silver or copper or more precious metals, then all of a sudden you're definitely dealing with more expensive materials. But then also you get into needing to know metallurgy to understand certain metals will bend easier or they will break sooner depending on how the actual chemical construction, whether or not you want, yes, I know, and with that, like, that's a really good example too, because you can take things like you find like sea glass or seashell, you pick up pieces that are really, really pretty off the beach, and then you can turn them into absolutely gorgeous. It's funny you mentioned that because we went to the Pacific Northwest, and I don't think I have any in here. I think they're all still in the pocket of my raincoat, but we had gone to the Pacific coastline in Washington, and everywhere were these really, really smooth, really small, almost cube-shaped white stones. And I picked up I finally had to like keep tossing them back because like, okay, I probably picked up a dozen. It was like, you don't need any more than this. But that's exactly what I wanted because they were very, very, for being as dense as they were still very lightweight, and I really wanted to try to figure out how to do a pair of wire-wrapped earrings with them. But yeah, and what I've got truly is like wire, jewelry, just basic jewelry grade wire for, creating like jump rings and head pins and stuff like that. So even what I've got isn't necessarily going to be ideal for it, but if it was something especially where I've got, like I said, I probably got 10 or 12 of those little rocks. They all look slightly different, so no two are the same, so if you're the kind of person that just has to have a perfect matching set, that's not going to happen. But if you get over that part and then just start with basic materials, at least I've got enough of them that if the first one or two don't go so well, or something about the process ends up damaging them in some way, chipping them or scratching them, and they kind of lose some qualities about them that, they don't make good jewelry pieces anymore. At least I have a few more to work with. But yes, I was going to say that's one of many things. It's really kind of wild how some people stick to like one hobby and that's just, they're good at it, and that's what they do. And then I'm like one of those people that I'm like, I just kind of want to know a little bit about everything, so I'm just gonna I'm not gonna get good at any one thing. I'm just gonna learn how to do a lot of little things and just be happy with, you know, my personal, you know, journey with it. So I think a lot of people are like that, honestly. I mean, it's like, and especially if there are just things like, take this diamond painting for example. Because I am taking a cross stitch pattern, if this was a pre-printed kit, I think diamond painting would be super simple. I mean, it would be kind of like paint by number, you know, just very, very easy, straightforward. You know, the hardest part would be just, you know, literally doing the putting it all together. But, you know, something as simple as this to branching out to, let's say, cross stitch, which might take a little more skill, but not necessarily, especially if you're following a pattern and you're keeping your materials pretty straightforward and you don't require a whole lot of special items in order to, you know, finish it. You're just going to frame it, or just, you know, basically just stitch it and then put it in a drawer somewhere. But I think, you know, people that do a lot of different crafts, that's what you end up finding, or you find the simple things that you enjoy, so then that way when you want to do the harder or more difficult crafts, then at least you have these to come back to that don't require a whole lot of effort and give you a lot more satisfaction as far as just allowing your brain to just kind of relax and not have to focus quite so much, or make yourself try so hard. Yeah, blacksmithing, absolutely. I was going to say, that's actually one of those things. The only blacksmiths I mean, the people that still do it, like there's the, aren't there a couple of like reality, like TV / game show kind of things, like on, that like people like make their own swords and stuff like that. But the only blacksmithing I can think of anymore is people like at Renaissance fairs that do it. That do like chainmail and then make like, yeah, swords and knives and or even like leather work, you know, making your own, whether it's a wallet or it's you know, a tablet case or a small bag or something like that. Yes, for sure. Well, and yeah, blacksmith especially, because you're going to have, like, they are not the same, but that's kind of like pottery level. Like, you got to have some place to generate fire hot enough that you don't, you don't cause a problem. Like, you, I mean, that's some really, really, really high heat, and you've got to be able to contain it, but you've also got to be able to use it. And then, yes, the metal, the materials can be very expensive, and you can go anywhere from, you know, something very simple to something very, very, very complicated. But it is really kind of, I mean, it really is very, it's awesome watching people, like, over a open flame, taking a material and allowing it to get so hot that it becomes, you know, bendable, flexible, malleable, to the point that you can actually make shapes with it, you can make sharp edges with it, you can, you know. And that just used to be the way things actually were. Everything, well, not everything, but that's the way a lot of things were made at one time, was, you know, because that's the material you had, that's the technology you had, and that's, you know, and that was an occupation. Yes, I would agree that, especially now, because something like blacksmithing is also a a very, very small, there just aren't the. I'm not saying that everybody's a software designer or a coder or an app creator, but there are far more out there than there are people who make broadswords and knives and stuff. So yes, I would definitely say that, and that's part of it too. Is that the person's ability to do something that not everybody can do is worth more than somebody who you can find 30 people just in your zip code that know how to do it. So to have the ability to have a craft where it is unique in and of itself, and then to be someone who, yes, then sells items, whether for fun or for something else, is definitely unique to them. They can definitely charge a bit more for it, for sure. Well, I was going to say, just, it always amazes me, people who they can take a hobby or a craft, leather making, book making, stuff like that, and just turn it into a small business for themselves, where they can actually it works. They can actually provide for themselves off of it. It's amazing how much, like, you think about people who, and leatherworking is the one I keep coming back to, because I know there are people on YouTube who are leather workers. So they get on there and they are not only, making that kind of stuff, but they're also putting tutorials out there on, the best kind of tanner, or the best awl for, putting holes in the leather or whatever, or how to make a small wallet or a scabbard, for a knife or something like that. It's just amazing to me that for those people who not only can have their hobby be their job and sell it and make money, they also still find a way to put content out there to show other people how to make it themselves. And I guess they just realize that what they do is so unique that not everybody is going to spend the time or the money making that same thing for themselves, when they could just as easily buy it from them. But it is always fascinating just to go down those when you're on YouTube and it just starts throwing out recommendations, because you watch somebody who makes knives or makes books, binds books, or makes pottery or makes jewelry, and then all of a sudden you've gone down this avenue of just watching all of these different people that make the same kinds of things, but they all do it differently, and they all have content showing you how to do it. But at the same time, you have to remind yourself, or I have to remind myself, I don't need one more I don't need one more crafting hobby that I don't need to spend any more money or have any more of my time be pulled away from other things I'm working on already. that's interesting that you, I, I think there's a couple of things about the YouTube thing, because I know, like, my sister's a good example. She and I are 7 years apart. I'm older. We're basically two different generations. And, but we share a lot of social media content with each other. And it is always kind of interesting to me how, even in our 7 years difference, and as much overlap as we have in certain things that we both enjoy, like, we both love music and all kinds of music, but we also very much share passion for similar artists, in particular. But she will send me something by someone, and it might even be a craft that I'm into, like crochet or knitting or something, and she'll say, "Have you seen this?" And I'm like, "No." And then I start thinking, how have I not run across this already? So I think, honestly, especially like with YouTube, I think once YouTube thinks it's got you figured out as far as the algorithm goes, I think it keeps you in a certain, like, little, I don't want to say echo chamber, but yeah, it kind of keeps putting things out there that are similar yet not very different. And it's like, I don't know, it's like YouTube thinks there's nothing else out there, but there is. But it's almost like you have to go find it for yourself, and you really do have to look, or you have to, like I said, have someone else direct you. That is one of kind of the interesting things about being a cross-stitcher, and watching YouTubers that cross-stitch. There for a while, in the previous probably couple of years, there used to be this effort on everyone's part to make sure that others are, new YouTube creators are mentioned, and that they get the followers and they get the likes and they get themselves into that mix, that feed. But then you start to realize, like myself, I get overwhelmed with, I have to watch all the people, so then I start scaling back, the people I want to watch, or it also seems like here more recently in the last year or so, a lot of people's lives have changed, in some form or fashion, and I think that may be a generational thing. Like, we've all got parents or siblings that are older that start having more health issues, so putting out YouTube content isn't a priority anymore. So then, I go through and I start, realizing there are people that I followed a couple of years ago on YouTube that haven't put out anything in about that long. And so you start to realize, okay, well, I really then am just seeing the same things over and over again, simply because the other content that I normally would be drawing from, just those people aren't doing it as frequently as they were before. Oh. Yeah, and I wish I'm not, savvy enough to understand all of I understand the algorithm enough to understand that, behind the scenes, YouTube is owned by Google. Google is pulling all of your demographic data based on what it knows about you, not just what you like to watch, but also literally, like, it knows you, it knows your more or less census data. So then, when as you being in your age bracket, in your zip code, and your likes and dislikes and shopping habits and whatever, go looking for ASMR videos, then they go out and they look at all the other people that fit all the same criteria you do that also look for ASMR videos, and then they go and they say, oh, but these people also liked videos about rabbit breeding, videos about vegetable gardening, and videos about, you know, IndyCar racing or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you find a bunch of stuff in there and you're like, why am I getting this? I mean, me personally, the one that always really kind of makes me giggle is every time it suggests gaming videos. You know, people who are gamers that either review games or sit there and play through, you know, you can sit there and watch them play through certain levels or whatever. And I'm just like, I have, you know, the typical, like, match 3 games or whatever on my phone, so when I'm bored while I'm getting my oil changed on my car, I can sit there and play solitaire or something. But I am not a PC or Xbox or PlayStation gamer. I'm not a, you know, RPGer. So the fact that they suggest those videos to me over and over again means that all of my other interests fit the same interests as people who play those games. So it's like I can't take it personal when YouTube's literally going, but the other people like you like this stuff. Why don't you like this stuff? So it's just, it tickles me that, you know, sometimes they get it. It's not that they get it wrong, but it's just that they, you know, go in certain directions. I mean, my subscription feeds are full of nature documentaries, knitters, cross-stitchers, late night talk shows, music videos, you know, local, like the local city and county feeds as far as, you know, what's going on. I'm trying to think what else is in my feed. But yeah, I'm just like, and then on top of that, you think I want to watch some guy play through the latest, you know, version of Diablo or I mean, it's just, it really is funny. And that's not to say that some of the people I do watch don't also play video games or read comic books or, you know, I like the Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, you know, universes like some of the people I watch, so I can totally see where that might lead down the path of, you know, being a gamer, maybe, I don't know. But the fact that I don't seek out those videos yet, YouTube still suggests them to me, is just rather amusing. But they definitely have a system, and sometimes it can be rather bizarre where they go with their suggestions. Especially, you mentioned the ASMR. I think the only, I can't say that it's the same thing, but the closest equivalency I can think of is, you know, like I use, you know, there's breathing or meditation apps, you know, or built into, you know, other apps on my phone or whatever. But I can't imagine if I went out to search for breathing or meditation or yoga or ASMR or something like that to help me sleep, that the next thing I would want is for it to, you know, suggest something that is totally in a different category. And I don't, I myself also have to, not ASMR, but I cannot fall asleep without either listening to an audiobook and put a sleep timer on it, or, you know, some TV show, you know, old TV show, something familiar and that I can fall asleep to that doesn't have a whole lot of action or anything like that. And again, put it on a sleep timer. I feel like ASMR, to have one of those YouTube channels, you have to be really, really good at what you do, because that seems like one of those things that's either you understand the people watching you or you don't, or you are very quick to adapt your channel to meet the needs of what people want to listen to. I assume, just because I don't know that much about it, there must be a lot of different kinds of ASMR, from whether it's voices, you know, people actually reading or talking or whispering, versus, you know, sounds that are soothing, you know, that are manipulated, made by the person that has the channel. I don't know. Mine is always, and it's not even to help me fall asleep really, it's just to help me chillax, but that's why I follow a lot of nature or live bird cameras and stuff like that, because just the sound of birds in the background, kind of like if I'm really trying to focus working on something and I get a little wound up about it, I will definitely, having birds going in the background for some reason does really just kind of help my mind just kind of not be so frazzled when I'm anxious or when I'm trying to feel like I don't have enough time and I've got to get something done, and I need to not mess it up, or I need it to be right the first time, and make sure I've covered everything. But yeah, bird sounds for me is kind of where it's at. So yeah, the people who record in their backyard, usually most of those videos are about, some of them are really long, some are like 8 hours, but most of them are like 3 hours or something. The only thing is, especially if I have it either on headphones or have it kind of up just to kind of drown out, like if I'm at home and I'm trying to drown out maybe like the neighbors are doing something, I will always jump scare when the commercial breaks kick in, because usually the birds are so quiet, I turn it up so loud that when the commercials come on, it is just like a blast of noise, and it just scares me just about every time. I wish that almost like they'd have like a little visual countdown timer or something, so you knew, okay, in 5 seconds, 4, 3, there's going to be a commercial, 2, 1. And then that way it gives you a chance that if you're paying attention, you can adjust the volume accordingly if you need to. I don't know how far I'm going to want to go with this, because I know I'm almost positive, well, no, I am positive, I am done with these vines, but there's another flower right here, so I really don't want to fill in any of this until I get that one done. So I really am just trying to fill in background, and it's going pretty well. I've got a lot more on here than I did. I just dropped that one. Oh, there it is. Definitely got a lot more of this filled in than I did before, which I'm happy about. And I think I'm going to be okay with this now that I'm seeing more of this outline of this flower. I think that was the right decision, just to do kind of the one line. I think it's going to stand out up against this other color, so that's good. And I keep kind of redoing my math. I tried to buy enough containers or little jars of these drills. I just keep hoping that I have enough. I think between the 3 different kinds of the 2 sparkly different colored black and then the matte black, this is, I think, the only place I'm going to do the matte black, so I don't think I'm going to need any more of that, but other than around these flowers. But I'm just, every time I kind of empty a jar, I look at what else I bought and then kind of reevaluate. Okay, am I going to have enough for this? Okay, am I going to have enough for this? And hope that it all works out. Kind of mentioned at the top that the craft store I was buying this from was putting all of theirs on clearance because they weren't going to be selling this anymore, so I kind of was going to several stores in the area to buy up everything that they had. There is still one store north of me that I went to a few weekends back, and they still had kind of a pretty big selection, but I don't know. The day I went, the weather was really bad. There were storms, and so when I walked in, it was probably at least an hour after the store should have been open, but their overhead lights were not on, and I didn't know if like the power was out or if the storms had knocked something out, or if like they were getting ready to close that store. Like, so like the back area looked kind of a mess, but like the registers worked. She could check me out. That wasn't a problem. And it's not like I walked in and they're like, our point of sale system's down, so you're gonna have to, shop later. I mean, there were several people in the store, but it was like almost dark. But they still had a bunch of diamond painting stuff, so I keep debating whether or not I want to go back up there this weekend, since it's a holiday weekend, and see what else they've got. I tried to buy a bunch of colors that I thought I might want, like one of each, but I started realizing, especially with projects like this, even the smaller projects like the cup I made, that blue in the background, it took more than one container for me to just do the background on that cup. So it's like, as many colors as I bought that I only bought one of, there's a chance one's not going to be enough for projects. And then I did buy one color, two containers of the same color, like it had the same number on the top, and they ended up being slightly different colors. One ended up being, it was like a kind of a lilac color. One of them ended up being a bit more pink, and the other one ended up being a bit more purple. And I was like, and it was supposed to be the background for something, so what I ended up doing was mixing them together, pouring them into the tray and mixing them together, and then just doing the background, just randomly selecting. And it turned out fine, but it was like, in my head, my brain was just snap, crackle, popping, because it was having a fit over the fact that the colors were very, very different, and like visibly different. I shouldn't say very, very different, but I should say visibly different, and it was kind of just making me a little bit nervous, but it seemed to work out okay. I did kind of wonder, though, how it happened. Like, if one of them was exposed to light, or, it's exposed in a warehouse that had some kind of weird, I don't know, chemical in the air or something, or just when they were manufactured, like when they make candy, hard candy, and they have to go from one batch to the other, and so there's kind of that in between of, like, you go from making cherry to making apple, but until you get all the cherry made, there's going to be some apple in there that's going to kind of be blended together. So I didn't know if that's what happened with those beads, was basically, they were making a purple, and then they were switching over to this lilac, but they, put too much pink in it, so it kind of got a little too pink in the first round, but they were like, forget it, we'll just go ahead and label them this color number anyway. And it's like, no, it's not the same color, it's different. So anyway, it, I think, kind of all worked out in the end, so I wasn't too worried about it. But it was frustrating knowing that, okay, I just came in this store and just bought 2 of the same exact number, and it just so happened the store was pitch dark, so when I left there, I had no idea what I'd grabbed, solely based off of having the same number on the lid. Was not, in fact, they were not identical colors. One was different from the other. So that was kind of like, need to remember either to get my, if I ever run into that situation again where their power is no good, remember to break out the flashlight on my phone or something and see if I can get it, make a better decision about my purchase. Not that I would have ever guessed in a million years. For instance, if I had ordered them online and they came in and they had the same number on them, and yet they were still 2 different colors. Like, I can't say that I blame the company that sent it to me, because if they're literally just picking 2 jars off of a shelf that they assume to be the same color, and yet somehow end up being different enough, I can't fault them for just fulfilling an order without knowing. And now I'm starting to wonder if it's just high winds outside or if we're actually getting some rain. Yeah, it just says cloudy. So maybe not yet, but maybe that is, our weather's fixing to change. I knew I didn't want to be on here more than a couple hours because I knew the weather was going to blow through here, and if it got severe, it might blow the power out here, and then I'd be sitting in the dark trying to do this, which would not be fun. Especially trying to log off of everything in the dark with no power. What part of the world are you in, Scarlett? Are you in North America somewhere? Are you here from another, or are you on Twitch from another? almost everybody I am in the same Twitch universe with is in the, for the most part, North America, United States, or Canada, but there are a few that are over in Europe, in the UK, or in Ireland, or in I'm trying to think if seems like there is a Twitch user maybe that's in Germany, but I don't know if that's right or not. I might be thinking of YouTube, not Twitch. There is someone, and it's kind of got me thinking about doing this today also. There is someone that I watch on YouTube that's a knitter, primarily a knitter, but she also crochets and does other crafty things, but the latest episode was she had bought a diamond painting, and she was doing diamond painting for the first time ever, and wanted to see how much she could accomplish in 24 hours of diamond painting, and she bought it was all part of an affiliate, like a sponsored episode, because whoever provided the diamond painting kit to her, she was an affiliate for. But first time out of the gate, the diamond painting was of, if you're familiar with the retro strawberry shortcake, back from like the 80s, but there are a bunch of different characters. Well, the diamond painting was of lemon meringue, and I think the verdict was a little under 24 hours, and the whole thing was complete. Like 23 hours plus, but it was, basically, I think a timer was set every time she sat down to work on it. Like, it wasn't 24-hour marathon straight, but it was kind of interesting just to see someone else, their first time experience, and of course hers was a, pre-printed image and all that kind of stuff, and just learning how to use the stylus and the how to fill in. And I think she did end up using one of the larger stylus where you do like multiple drills at the same time, and that was really kind of interesting to watch somebody else, be a beginner and use it. And she just used it to do all the major, like, fill in their large, areas of color. And I think I'm getting dangerously close to doing this over here too, because I think there's a flower up here, and I may be peeling some of these back off, so I may stop at this row on this side for fear I'm going to end up having to pick a bunch of these off to get a flower in, and I don't want to have to do that. That was the other thing in all my research that I did with this. The other thing I didn't pay that much attention to was like the adhesive. I know you can buy the fabric, so the what I bought was pre-gridded fabric that's already got the adhesive on it. But you can also buy just the pre-gridded fabric and then put the adhesive on yourself. And like in the case of my margins that went outside the pre-gridded area, I ended up buying strips or buying sheets of just adhesive and cutting it into strips. Like these are like little over 1 inch strips, just to cover enough margin that I could finish the border. So I don't know, as far as this adhesive is concerned, if I have to pull a bunch of drills off, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that like I'm not pushing terribly hard, but I'm hoping I'm not peeling off a bunch of, if I have to back up, that I'm not peeling off a bunch of adhesive, and then I have to go and figure out, either go buy a bottle of adhesive to redo certain areas, so don't want to take too much of a chance here. And then of course there's the fact that try to keep the adhesive covered, but I still have little bits of hair and fuzz and whatever in the stuck in the deal. Okay, I think I'm going to, there's like a yellow one in here too, which I don't know how that got there, but it's just going to stay for now because it's not that yellow one. And I'm trying not to, sorry, that arm of the chair keeps squeaking. Also trying not to smash this down too far, because I know I'm going to end up curling this up eventually, rolling it up to keep it out of the way, but right now it's still so short I can't do that without it. I mean, I kind of can, but not really. But I am getting to the point where I have to move this down. I have this high, really strong magnets on here that I'm trying to, basically I've got them between my cutting mat and the fabric under the on the table. And sorry if that's an annoying sound. I'm really sorry. I'm trying to desperately keep this covered as much as I can while I'm doing this, just to keep it from being an absolute mess. But it's pretty obvious that you do have to kind of I'm not going to do this for too much longer. I think I'm going to do a little bit of white here just to kind of go up the sides a little bit. And then I think I'm going to call it. Kind of just wanted to be on here for a couple of hours. I do want to thank you, Scarlett, for keeping me company. It's really nice of you to be here. I'm glad we had a lovely chat. I hope your weekend goes well for you. Hope you find time to do the things you want to do. Too, every time I find two of these that are they're still molded together, it's kind of like finding two puzzle pieces in the box that go together, that are stuck together. It's like you kind of excited because you got to put something in place that was kind of a little, like, not a cheat, but, you know, saved you a step or saved you some effort. That's always nice. I think my stylus is also telling me it's time because I can't seem to grab much else with it. And I also can't tell if what I hear in the background, y'all probably can't hear it, but if what I hear in the background is thunder or if it's the neighbors. It is a holiday weekend for us, and I have one neighbor to the north side of our house who likes to throw parties every chance they get, even though they're always outdoor parties and the weather doesn't really, the forecast, let's say, is not really designed or not really saying that partying outdoors is a good thing to do today. But it can also be any number of other neighbors. It can also be they're playing their music really loud in their house and I can hear it outside. It can also be somebody driving up and down the street with their vehicle playing music really loud. Or my other thought was it's actually thunder off in the distance, and this really is going to be a good time for me to okay, that sounded like thunder. That did not sound like the rhythm of bass. That sounded like something was headed this way very, very, very soon. So I think this is probably where I'm going to call it. And I do need to at least, when I get off of here, mark these white stitches. Everything I did other than the white, all this is just background, so I can't count those as stitches. I am keeping track of my stitch count, but because I was just doing background today, which is what I was trying to do because of Twitch and everything, trying to keep it simple. But I definitely need to make sure I count these white ones because these are actual stitches in the pattern, so I do want to get a little bit of credit for today. Not keeping track of my background drills just because it's going to be way too difficult. Having to stop down and count and keep track, but also because I don't, I think in the end, just keeping track of the count of the actual cross stitch pattern itself is probably going to be about as good as it gets for me anyway. So yeah, I am at almost 2 hours, so I think that is going to wrap it up for me. For those of y'all who catch this later, thank you for hanging out. I hope Scarlett, you got some downtime in doing something fun, either something crafting you're doing, or something different. And for everybody else, I hope you also were able to get something accomplished in the last couple hours. So I hope you all take care, and I will see you all very, 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 very soon. Bye for now.